Imagine this. You're driving home late at night. The world outside your windshield is nothing but black, empty farmland and thick sheets of fog. Your headlights cut only a narrow tunnel through the mist, and beyond that, it's just silence. No cars, no houses, no sign of life. And then, just when you settle into that quiet dread of being alone, you notice it. A strange, blinking yellow light. At first, you think it might be a traffic signal, maybe a reflector, maybe even a car ahead of you. But then, it moves. It blinks, brighter and brighter, and before long, you realize it's following you. Your chest tightens. Your phone has no signal. The engine starts to stutter, and that yellow light, it refuses to disappear. Tonight's story is about one of the most unsettling encounters I've ever heard: an unexplained light on a lonely, foggy road, and what happened when the driver realized it wasn't something natural. So buckle up, because by the end of this, you'll think twice about ever driving home late at night again. It happened about 3 years ago. The narrator, let's call him Ryan, was heading home from his night shift at a warehouse just outside of town. Normally, his drive took him through the main highway, but on this particular night, there was road work. The GPS rerouted him through a series of rural back roads. At first, he didn't think much of it. He was used to night driving. The hum of the tires on the pavement, the low crackle of the radio, it was routine. But this road was different. There were no streetlights, no stores, just a long stretch of cracked asphalt with nothing but open fields on either side. The fog made it worse. It clung to the road in thick patches, forcing him to lean forward in his seat, squinting just to see what was ahead. He slowed down, watching the white lines fade in and out beneath the car. He described the atmosphere as the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. That's when he noticed it, a faint yellow light in the distance. At first, he thought it was a flashing caution signal, the kind you'd see near an intersection or railroad crossing. It was dim, barely cutting through the fog, blinking at regular intervals. But here's the thing. There were no intersections out here. No railroad, just road. Ryan brushed it off, telling himself maybe it was a farm light or some kind of utility marker. But as he drove, the blinking light didn't stay in one place. It moved. At first, it seemed to drift along the edge of the road, almost like a person walking with a lantern. Then, without warning, it darted directly into the lane ahead of him. His stomach dropped. He slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching against the damp road. The car jolted to a stop, his seatbelt digging into his shoulder. His headlights should have illuminated whatever it was, an animal, a sign, anything. But there was nothing there, just fog. And then, blink. The light appeared again, this time closer. Ryan's heart was pounding now. He checked his mirrors, half expecting to see a car behind him. Nothing. The road stretched into blackness in both directions. He tried to shake it off, telling himself fatigue was playing tricks on him. He had been awake for nearly 18 hours. Maybe his eyes were just catching reflections. But then he noticed something that made his blood run cold. The blinking wasn't random. It was timed, almost deliberate, like someone or something was trying to signal him. Every flash lasted exactly 1 second. Then darkness, then light again. And each time it returned, it was closer. Ryan gripped the steering wheel tighter and pressed the gas. His car lurched forward, tires spinning slightly on the damp asphalt. He just wanted out of there. But the faster he drove, the brighter the light became. It kept pace with him, sometimes ahead, sometimes off to the side, always just at the edge of visibility. It was like it was toying with him. And then his phone lit up on the passenger seat. No ringtone, no text, just the screen flickering on and off, almost in sync with the yellow light outside. That's when the engine stuttered. The radio cut to static. The dashboard lights dimmed. Ryan's stomach dropped as the steering wheel grew stiff in his hands. He was losing power. "Not now, not here," he muttered, panic clawing up his throat. The car slowed, headlights dimming against the fog. The yellow light blinked ahead of him, brighter now, pulsing almost like a heartbeat. Then the engine died completely. Silence. He sat there, frozen in the driver's seat, every hair on his body standing on end. The fog pressed against the car windows, and that awful blinking light hovered just beyond the hood. And then he swears to this day he heard it. A faint hum, low at first, like electricity in the walls, then rising in pitch until it buzzed in his ears. The light pulsed faster, erratic now, almost angry. His phone vibrated violently on the seat beside him, but when he picked it up, the screen was just static. White noise on a phone. Impossible. Ryan wanted to get out, to run, but his body refused to move. It was like the air itself had thickened, pressing him into the seat. The light flared once so bright it filled the car like daylight, and then darkness. Ryan blinked, gasping for breath. The car engine roared back to life on its own. The dashboard lit up. The radio returned to its normal station. His phone rebooted. And outside, no light. No sound. Just fog. Shaking, he pressed the gas and drove as fast as he could. He didn't care where the GPS led him anymore. He just wanted to be back on a road with traffic, with people, with anything but that suffocating emptiness. When he finally merged back onto the main highway, he nearly broke down. The sight of other cars, just normal headlights, felt like salvation. To this day, Ryan refuses to drive on back roads at night. He never figured out what that light was. Some people, he's told, suggest swamp gas, reflections, maybe even a drone. But none of those explain the way his car and phone malfunctioned at the exact same time. And none of them explain the sound he heard, the humming that rattled through his bones. What makes this story so disturbing isn't just the light itself. Plenty of people have seen strange lights in the sky, weird reflections in fog, even unexplained flashes on empty roads. But this one, it interacted with him. It affected his car, his phone, his entire environment. It wasn't just a light in the distance. It wanted to be noticed. The way it followed him matched its blinking with his phone and killed his engine. That's what makes it terrifying. Because if it had the power to shut down everything around him, what else could it have done if it wanted to? If you were in Ryan's position, stuck on a foggy road with your car dead and a light hovering just beyond your windshield, what would you have done? Would you have gotten out of the car and tried to confront it? Or would you have sat frozen like he did, hoping it would go away? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious what the scariest part of this story was for you. The blinking, the phone glitching, or the moment the engine died. Driving alone at night is already unnerving. The fog, the silence, the feeling that you're the only soul out there, it plays tricks on your mind. But sometimes, it's not just your imagination. Sometimes, the road isn't empty. The next time you're out late, headlights cutting through the mist, and you see a strange light flickering in the distance, don't assume it's just a sign or a reflection. Because once it starts moving closer, there's no telling what it really is. Imagine this. It's 2 in the morning, and you're the only person for miles on a pitch-black desert highway. There are no towns, no gas stations, no houses. Just your headlights cutting through the emptiness. You glance in the mirror, and there it is, a dark SUV, following you, matching every move you make. Not too close, not too far. Just there. What would you do? Would you keep driving? Would you stop and confront them? This is a true story from a long-haul truck driver, and it remains one of the most unsettling nights of his life. The trucker had been driving for years. By now, he was used to the loneliness of the road, the endless stretches of nothing, the quiet that sometimes feels too quiet. This particular night, he was running his second-to-last delivery on a long cross-state loop. The desert stretched out endlessly around him, a sky full of stars above, just 2 lanes of road slicing through the darkness. He says after a while, you start to feel like the last person on Earth. That's when he saw it. At first, it was just a pair of faint headlights in his side mirror, a dark SUV trailing behind him at a comfortable distance. Nothing unusual at first, at least not yet, but as the miles ticked by, the SUV didn't pass. It didn't fall back either. It just hovered there. Every time he adjusted his speed, whether he sped up or slowed down, the SUV matched him perfectly. For nearly 40 miles, it stayed in his mirror, always the same distance, always in the shadows. He told himself it was nothing, maybe just a nervous driver, maybe someone afraid to pass a semi on an empty road. But that theory made less and less sense when he cruised through several wide-open passing zones. Still, the SUV stayed put. That was when the first feeling of real unease set in. You know the one when your stomach tightens, your pulse starts to climb, and you can't help but glance over your shoulder every few seconds. The trucker said he doesn't usually get rattled easily. But something about that car, the way it followed at that exact distance, mile after mile, was starting to crawl under his skin. Finally, around 2 a.m., he spotted a small roadside rest stop. It wasn't a full truck stop, just a dirt lot with a few faded parking spaces and a flickering bulb above some old vending machines. He figured he'd pull in, stretch his legs, grab a soda, and more importantly, let whoever was behind him finally pass. But when he parked and glanced in the mirror, his blood ran cold. The SUV pulled in too, parking way off in the far corner of the lot. At that point, any confusion he felt turned into pure anger. He wasn't the type to scare easily, and he wasn't about to be toyed with. He killed the engine, climbed down from the cab, and started marching toward the SUV. His footsteps heavy, his frustration obvious. But before he could even get close, the SUV's engine roared to life. Tires squealed, gravel sprayed, and the vehicle peeled out of the lot like it was fleeing the police. The trucker tried to catch a glimpse of the driver through the tinted windows, but it was useless. Within seconds, the SUV disappeared back onto the highway, its taillights shrinking into nothingness. Part of him felt relieved. At least it was over. But another part of him knew exactly what had just been confirmed. That SUV had been following him, on purpose. And whoever was inside didn't want him getting close. He returned to the vending machines, only to find them completely empty. A pointless stop. And now, the exhaustion of the night hit him hard. He figured he'd earned a short break, just an hour or two of sleep before finishing the route in the morning. So, he did a quick walk around of the truck, making sure the cargo doors were locked, everything secure. Then, he climbed back into the cab, cracked the window, reclined the seat, and closed his eyes. He told himself the SUV was long gone. They wouldn't come back, not out here in the middle of a pitch-black desert. Finally, he let himself drift into sleep. Maybe an hour later, he woke up. At first, he wasn't sure why. Then, he heard its soft, crunching footsteps on the gravel outside his rig. He froze, his breathing shallow, his heart pounding. Peeking through a corner of the window blind, he saw them. Two figures crouched near the rear wheels of his trailer, moving slowly, whispering. One of them carried a small flashlight, signaling back and forth. The other pulled a pair of bolt cutters from a bag. They weren't just random strangers. They were trying to break into his cargo. He didn't have a weapon, but he did have one advantage. Without thinking, he slammed his palm down on the truck's air horn. The blast shattered the silence, echoing across the desert. The men jumped like they'd been hit by lightning. They scrambled into the darkness, vanishing toward the brush at the edge of the lot. And then, headlights. That same SUV from earlier roared back into view. This time with its lights off, speeding past the lot before disappearing again into the night. It all happened in seconds. And then, dead silence. The trucker never even had time to step out of his cab. After a few moments, he grabbed his phone and called the police. He just wanted to report it, but dispatch told him to stay put until officers arrived. When they finally showed up, they inspected the truck. Sure enough, fresh pry marks scarred the lock arms on the back of the trailer. The officers told him they'd seen this before. Cargo thieves. They use vehicles like SUVs to follow trucks for hours, waiting for the perfect time to strike. And that corridor, they said, was a hot spot. The driver finished his deliveries the next day, but he admits that night never left him. What makes this story creepier than most isn't just the isolation of the desert highway or even the SUV that wouldn't go away. It's the fact that it was all real. This wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a legend. It was people watching him, planning to rob him, and maybe worse. There's nothing better than a night drive, especially in the summer. Picture this, the warm summer breeze flowing through the open windows of a speeding car, cutting through empty stretches of endless highway. That's what it's like around my neck of the woods. Anyway, there aren't a lot of cars out on the highway at night. No cops either. So I essentially have free rein to drive how I please. And trust me, I take full advantage of that. My dad's BMW M3 definitely helps in that regard too. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not some reckless driver or someone who operates a car at criminal speeds, but I do enjoy experiencing the full capabilities of German engineering from time to time, and this night was one of those times. I was full-on joyriding, cruising along the highway without a care in the world. Stereo turned off, passenger seat empty. My ears were tuned not to music, but to two things: the beautiful sound of my car and the whip of the air rushing past my face. Driving like this is one of the only things that makes me feel truly free. I'm not sure what came over me, but at one point, I had this insatiable urge to pull off the highway, to cut through the back roads, to really appreciate the car's handling. It was one of those urges you don't know why you feel it, but you know you won't be able to sleep unless you do it. So, I did exactly that. I pulled off at the next exit and started weaving through a network of back roads, cutting through whatever neighborhood I had landed in. The roads were narrow, tight bends everywhere, exactly the kind of driving I was looking for. I let the car open up a little, taking the turns with just enough speed to feel the tires grip and release. The streets were completely deserted. It was just me, the car, and the road, until I spotted a flicker of light up ahead. I slammed the brakes just in time to avoid smashing into it. When I came to a stop, I got my first real look at what I had almost hit. It was a shopping cart, just sitting there, dead center in the middle of the road. The way my headlights bounced off the metal bars must have made it look more dramatic than it was, but still, it threw me completely off. I mean, who expects to see a random shopping cart in the middle of a back road, close to midnight? Against my better judgment, I put the car in park, switched on the hazards, and stepped out. I probably should have just kept driving, but curiosity got the better of me. It was just so out of place, so strange, I felt like I needed to make sense of it. The night air hit me right away, warm but buggy. The only sound was my cooling engine, making that classic BMW ticking sound. I walked up to the cart, unsure of what I'd find inside. Groceries, maybe? No, that was ridiculous. I scolded myself for even thinking it. I peered inside. Empty. Just an ordinary metal shopping cart, sitting in the middle of the road. I stood there for a few seconds, and when it was clear there was nothing unusual about the cart itself, I turned back toward my car. That's when I saw it, out of the corner of my eye. Two dark figures, bursting out from the farmland beside the road. Sprinting, full speed, straight toward me. It took my brain a second to process what I was seeing, but in that moment, it was life or death. Either act or die. I bolted. I ran back to my car and slammed the start button. The engine roared to life just as those figures reached my window. One of them stopped a few feet away, but the other sprinted straight into my passenger side door. Thump. He hit so hard, it was like my car wasn't even there. He didn't brace himself, didn't flinch, just full speed into the metal. And then, we locked eyes. Too beady. Bloodshot eyes staring straight into me. His clothes were torn, like he'd been running through brush or barbed wire. His hair messy and wet. His face smeared with something dark. Dirt, blood, maybe both. His expression was vacant, not a scowl, not a smile, just empty. And I was frozen, terrified, more than I've ever been in my entire life. Blood was spurting from somewhere on his body, but he didn't seem to notice, didn't care. Then he grabbed the door handle, started fumbling, trying to pry it open. That snapped me out of it. I threw the car in gear, swerved around the shopping cart, and sped out of there. The entire drive home, I was conflicted, shaken, scared. But another part of me thought, Maybe he needed help. Maybe I just left someone out there to die. I debated turning back, but in the end, I didn't. Instead, I called the police, still driving, told them everything. They said they'd send someone out. When I got home, I parked in the driveway, stepped out, and inspected the car. I needed to know what damage was done. That's when I saw it. Blood. Spattered across the entire passenger side, streaked along the mirror, smeared across the handle, dotted across the rear panel. There was even a dent in the door. Small, but there. But the blood? That was the part that stuck with me. It was way more than I expected. Inhumanly more. The next morning, my dad saw the car. And he lost it. Didn't even let me explain. He was furious. Yelling about how irresponsible I was, how I should have never taken the car out that late, how much it was going to cost to fix. To him, all he saw was his car dented and blood-stained. I might as well have told him I hit a deer. Eventually, he did calm down. He let me explain, and he was sympathetic, but only after I cleaned it up. And let's just say, that was one of the last times he let me take the car out at night. I think I can explain what happened. Those people probably homeless. They wheeled the cart into the road to lure someone out of their car. I just happened to be the one that night. They weren't fast enough, they weren't quiet enough, and I got away. I never heard back from the police, but I wasn't expecting to. Still, I hate thinking that the impact of my car might have ended someone's life that night.